All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Saturday, November 22nd, right here on your Daily Fix for all things Texas Longhorns. This is the immediate reaction following the Texas beatdown of the Arkansas Razorbacks. At the time of recording, it is 52-30. And as we all predicted, the over hit. Texas almost hit it by themselves at 57.5 points. So Texas still very well could, absolutely. But yeah, about 2 minutes remaining left in this game. We figured we'd go ahead and get started a little early. Arch Manning, career game, just shy of 400 yards passing. Had 4 passing touchdowns, had 1 rushing touchdown, had a receiving touchdown as well, giving him 6 total touchdowns on the day, 0 turnovers for the Longhorn offense. And man, what a game it was for the offense after a 10-point stinker a week ago in Athens, Georgia. And they're trying to be the first 3-loss team to get into the playoffs. They need a lot of help. But it was nice to see that this team's potential kind of on display today, whether that be some young defensive guys, whether that be a lot of the offense and the offensive line, what have you. But I think the big storyline here is Arch Manning coming into his own very, very quickly here towards the end of the season. And Jake, something you and I talked about very early on in the season, especially after the Florida game following the Oklahoma game. You and I, when Texas had 2 losses within their first 5 games of the season, we were, what I was kind of saying was, what I would like to see at this point is just constant growth from this team and seeing where Arch Manning is at the end of the year and seeing if we can't end this season kind of on a hot streak and winning maybe the last 3. It's going to be a possibility of winning your last 2 games now. But really just seeing this offense really start to feel comfortable and start to mesh together and start seeing some chemistry develop on the offensive line and from quarterback to wide receiver. Still had some dropping issues today. But things just kind of starting to build upon for next season. And it looked like, at least against Arkansas, worst defense in the SEC, but also a team who has lost every SEC game this season by possession, to completely blow them out. It means something. I mean, it's a little something, but it's something.
It's a good response. The first half was frustrating defensively, especially. I thought the defense played a lot better in the second half. I thought the defense played a lot better once they started putting in Cade Phillips more, and Littleton was out there more, and there was a lot less Gilbo. Kobe Black's hit and miss, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes he makes really good plays. Sometimes he's just getting torched. I really like what we've seen from Cade Phillips. I think he is just a future stud.
Got that dog in him.
As soon as next year, stud. I think Littleton is obviously a really bright spot on this defense. Phil Simi seems to be always around the ball making plays. I like what I see.
McDonald's going to come back and he's going to be better.
Hopefully. There's a lot of noise that he could go pro. I really hope he stays. I think he could help his draft stock a lot if he stays.
I could see him kind of taking that Jahdae Barron approach and them kind of giving him that sales pitch of, you could really improve your draft stock if you stay another year.
Yeah, and still make money. This isn't, before NIL. You still make plenty of money, especially at a place like Texas. Jelani McDonald's going to be probably one of the higher priority retention guys that is borderline of whether he will leave or stay. And so you got some really young pieces that show well. There's just, to me, the defensive staff has to probably make some changes. I think Akina is the obvious one everyone's pointed out. There's just an obvious disconnect between the linebackers and the secondary and coverage, and that's typically where the holes are that are getting picked on by offenses. But there's still a lot of fun players to watch individually on the defense, and they played much better in the second half against what is a really good offense in Arkansas. And so a lot of good things. Really bad thing, though, is, and I think it's one of the leading stories coming out of this game, unfortunately, and not the win, is Anthony Smith out for the first half of A&M. We don't know whether Anthony Hill's going to play against A&M. I don't really know who's going to be playing linebacker for Texas outside of
LaFau and Trey Moore.
Outside of LaFau and then Trey Moore, that's not really his natural position.
He looked very unnatural today.
He
kind of
started playing better as he got into the game once he stepped, but you could tell it wasn't coming natural, especially early on.
And I'm not sold that Brad Spence is going to be that missing key against the Texas A&M offense.
Not against the A&M off. So I was already concerned about the defense going into next week. Ty Anthony Smith getting hurt and not knowing whether Anthony Hill is going to play has me like all the panic alarms going off. Like button's been pressed out of the case, has been full on slammed. Very concerned about next week with the defense. And unfortunately, I think it's one of the leading stories coming out of this game because of what's happened at the linebacker position.
Yeah, no, I mean, if anything, Jake, it's going to have to be Texas scoring much more than 17 points like we saw last year to beat Texas A&M. They're going to have to score probably close to about what they scored against Arkansas. Whatever the over is going to be set at, over under, I'm probably going to nail the over just for the sake of Texas having a chance to win that game, because that's what that's what's going to have to happen. It's got to be a shootout. It's going to have to be Arch Manning. It's going to have to be the offense taking care of things. Offensive line, I know Arkansas again. The Arkansas
defensive line is not terrible.
Yeah, but the Arkansas defense as a whole is just, it's worse than Texas's defense. But Texas's defense, first half, especially with Taylor Green at quarterback, was warm, microwaved, heated up butter. I mean, it took nothing to get down the field. I mean, first play of the game was a 40-yard run from the running back. So it's going to be something that Texas is definitely going to have a big concern going into next week's game against Texas A&M. But with that said, celebrate the wins when you can get them. Again, Arkansas has been one of the feistiest teams that have come on the losing side of every game this year in the SEC. I know they're a 2-win team. I know they're winless in SEC play, but to get a win like this, relatively stress-free, like you said, it's a good response from last week's game.
Yeah, and we talked about, both you and I picked this to be a very close one-possession game.
Also, it was a big recruiting weekend. Texas, ton of recruits at this game. So
yeah, a ton of flip targets, ton of 2027 recruits. And I think you and I both picked this to be a close game. I think most people were thinking this was going to be a closer game than what it ended up being come the second half. Mainly just because Arkansas has been close. I think like 7 of their 8 losses have been one possession.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Notre Dame is the only game that wasn't. So this, is it impressive? I guess not. Is there impressive factors of it? I think that's fair to say. I mean, you just look at Arkansas and how they played against other, A&M game was a 3-point game. I think they played Ole Miss within a score. Most of the games they played have been within a score.
Yeah. Texas
found a way to not make that happen. And Texas has been the team where when you think they're going to win by a bunch, they win by a score. So it's nice to see them kind of flip that, because you felt like you got robbed of it in the Vandy game because of that fourth quarter. This game, and also something we know, this team plays much better at home.
Oh,
they are
absolutely.
a much better home team than road team this year, but the kind of a staple of the Sarkisian era has been their road play. And this year, that's kind of reverted back. Is that because they're really young? Probably. They're one of the youngest teams in the Power Four. So I think that probably plays a lot into that factor. But they are obviously a much better home team, so you have to be happy that you get A&M at home this year. Because ironically, Texas should have had the home game last year if you were actually going based off where they had played the last time they had played.
Right.
So it's actually, I think, ended up being a big bonus that Texas got it the way they did, because they were always going to beat A&M last year. This year, they're not going to be the favorites, but at least you get them in Austin, which I think gives them a much better shot.
Yeah, and, 2 teams that Texas needed to have at least another loss on their schedule, USC one of them, and USC looks like they're going to lose to Oregon. About 2 minutes remaining left in that game. They're down 42-27 at the time of this recording. Also, Utah. It's 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, still plenty of time. They're down by 10 to Kansas State. Utah, another team that Texas probably needs to drop a game. And then BYU later tonight, they play Cincinnati on the road at Cincinnati. That would be another game Texas would prefer Cincinnati win that game. And so, again, outside chances looking very slim to none. At the very end of the day, though, Texas needs to beat Texas A&M, and that's really all it comes down to at the end of the day, even if you can play spoiler to their undefeated season.
And just, it would really feel like you salvaged this season
and you go into next season with some momentum regardless.
But you have a ton of momentum going into the next season, and it's tangible momentum, not, the momentum that Tom Herman, generated. And you still have a chance for a 10-win season.
Yeah.
And, that to me means something. I expect, I want Texas to be winning double-digit games every year. That was kind of what Mac Brown was doing at Tech. They were always winning 10 games. And I think if you always are winning 10 games, you're going to be in playoffs, 80 to 90% of the time. So I'll take that rate. There's always going to be there's going to be years where you miss the playoff. Every program does it. I literally, because Texas was the only team to make the last 2 playoffs in a row.
I mean, look at Alabama. Look at Michigan.
Notre Dame might be the only team who makes it every year now in this expanded era because their schedule.
Yeah.
But you have a chance to really end this season with a bang. Now that's a lot easier said than done. Texas is not going to be favored in that game, but you at least are carrying momentum now going into that A&M game. You responded after getting punched in the mouth by Georgia. You went out, you took care of business in this game. You came out in the second half, and instead of kind of just carrying the performance from the first half, especially defensively, they kicked it to another gear and just put away this team in the third quarter. They put this game away very quickly in the third quarter, and that's what a good team should do, especially at home.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Jake, let's take a quick break. We'll talk about our Longhorns entry. We actually already have the results of that, which people probably think to themselves right now, wow, that's not good. So, we'll go ahead and hit that up real quickly. Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code HORNS to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code HORNS. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog, make picks, win money. Must be 18 and up. 19 and up in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 and up, and in Colorado for some games, 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and must be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Well, the all-in-horns entry is dead. John Mateer did not get a rushing touchdown in the early slot of games against Missouri.
They didn't score many touchdowns at all. That game was horrible.
Yeah. That game was a very ugly game. Arch Manning already hit, or he did hit about first drive of the third quarter. He hit that mark of higher than 256 or 260 something. Anyway, hit it regardless. And now we still have the Drake May and the George Pickens line, but that doesn't really matter because Mateer ruined it for everybody. So that's what you get for putting your money on a Sooner. Arkansas did end up scoring another touchdown. 37-52 is going to be the final 16 seconds left. Kicking an onside kick, high bounce, out of bounds, and it'll be Texas ball. And it'll just be a quick knee out, tied for the second most amount of points scored against Arkansas. And the higher on this game was easily attained by the Texas Longhorns and the Arkansas Razorbacks, which I also placed a little friendly wager on. That line was set at 57.5 by Underdog, and it hit very early into the second half. I think it was the first touchdown of the second half. So football is back, and Underdog. My bad. Wrong button. There's a missed button press almost every week.
It used to be once a week. It is now
almost every episode.
It's just pretty much an episode, episodic.
I might be reaching all time 0.8 miss button hips like career.
Yeah, it's
like,
impressive. You've really pumped the numbers up.
Yeah, no, especially in the last like month
To
or
me, it
so.
just shows a lack of focus from my co-host.
Well, absolutely. I'm watching the game while also trying to produce and co-host this thing. So, but Arch Manning is the first quarterback ever to obtain a passing, rushing, and receiving touchdown in a single game. First player. I guess it doesn't technically have to be a quarterback to do that, but first player to ever do that. And first one in a season to do it since David Ash lore for you since in that time. But to do it in a single game, first time a Texas Longhorn player has ever done that. So pretty cool for Arch Manning. He also tacked on 3 other touchdown passes on top of that to make it four passing touchdowns on 18 completions. Jake, he had 389 yards. He threw for more 40-plus yard passing plays in this game than he had in the previous 10 games combined. And just, again, another kind of breakout performance for Arch Manning in this one.
Yeah, amazing what happens whenever you have time to throw it down the field. First off,
and that's a point that Jesse Palmer made.
That's the biggest. I thought Tessitore and Palmer are one of the better duos. Really I think in all of college.
I think
football.
we got them. I think we have them next week too. I think is what they said.
I really hope so because they are a lot better to listen to. They actually provide a lot of useful information, unlike pretty much every other broadcast crew.
Shocking.
To me, that is truly more of just a having time to throw thing than anything. And also there's been a lot of passes that have been right on the borderline, to be fair.
Well, we also have had a lot of drop passes.
Yeah, there's been a lot of drops on longer passes down the field, not a lot of contested catches, which honestly was a problem today, or he would have had some more. Livingston had a couple balls that he probably could have caught.
Emmett Mosley had one.
Mosley had a drop. I think Moore might have had a drop. So there was a handful of drops in this game. But overall, I don't think really anything to complain about with the offense. They ran the ball pretty effectively, or at least effectively enough. They scored in the red zone. Sark got creative in the red zone. I thought that double pass was a perfectly timed call.
The hook'em special.
Yeah, he didn't get cute with it too early. You felt like he went to it when it was like, is this drive going to stall? They need to score a touchdown. And then he pulled that out of the bag and they scored. And I mean, everything just kind of worked for the offense. The Arkansas defense isn't great, but they do have a decent defensive line. And I thought this front five of an offensive line, even the Georgia game, they weren't great, but they've been much better than it was with any other five they had.
This team beats Florida, and that's what's frustrating too. Is like this team right now beats Florida. You get the right offensive line in there, and
that's what's frustrating. Just about you got to hit those games against Sam Houston. Kyle Flood should have been shuffling the offensive line like crazy. And I just don't understand why he didn't try this combination out that I said in game 3 should be your starting 5.
Yeah.
I really question Kyle Flood.
A lot on Kyle Flood this year.
And
PK
I really,
his staff need to.
I want to see a change in
reevaluate.
offensive line coach. I don't want Kyle Flood to reevaluate. I just want to change. I'm just done with it. Even the offensive line last year wasn't as good as it should have been. And
right.
The penalties have always been an issue with him.
That's a big storyline that I don't think people are really hitting on. Was last year's offensive line never really protected the way they were supposed to. And for a big part of it was, Quinn getting hit a lot. Now Quinn self-sacked himself quite a bit last year, but in
the Ohio State game, in the Georgia game, it wasn't as good as you felt like it should have been. And then just the run blocking all year, especially against good teams, was never.
Quite frankly, the play just wasn't good enough to win a national championship from the offensive line. There wasn't an offensive line winning offensive line last year. And this offensive line is not a playoff caliber offensive line. It's just plain and simple. I mean, you look at your rivals and look at where their strengths are, and Texas A&M has one of the best lines of scrimmage, both offensive and defensive, in the entire country. Look at Georgia. Look at Oklahoma. Those teams are all making the playoffs. Well, Oklahoma's defensively more so,
but their offensive line's pathetic. They're
but
not a playoff team. They're going to make the playoffs. They're not a playoff team.
Yeah. But yeah, my point being is you got to get better in the trenches if you're going to be competing for a national championship.
Yeah, and you got to turn this one around pretty quick. So ideally, you bring in an offensive line coach, and I'll put together some names by the time we get to the offseason. You got to go out and get an offensive line coach, in my opinion, that can bring over a lineman or two. And to me, it's really the interior. I think you're good at tackle. Maybe you bring in a guy for depth. I think you kick Brooks back out the tackle as a backup because that's where he was looking really good in camp, and that's where he's always played. Playing tackle versus guard is pretty different. Not as different as going to center, but you got to build that rebuild the interior. DJ Campbell's gone. Cole Hudson's gone. I think Robertson's back, but you bring in probably competition. Hopefully Cruz is ready to compete as well. He's someone I'm still excited about.
The first defensive touchdown of the season for Texas in this game. That just doesn't feel right.
It feels right. I've been on the boat that this defense is not elite.
I'm just saying
some time
for a Texas team in general. Texas's teams typically generate a defensive touchdown before the last 12, 13 weeks of the season.
Yeah, but they just haven't been a big playmaking defense this year. They generated a bunch of turnovers early in the year against bad teams, and then they really haven't generated much.
The pass rush is really the only consistent factor of
the pass rush is by far the funnest part of this defense. The run defense is not near as good as last year. It's very you could tell Anthony Hill was missing today for sure. Yeah. When they have Anthony Hill, they're a really good, pretty good run defense unit, but they're definitely not like an elite. They're not really elite at anything other than pass rush. They are an elite pass rush for sure. But that's about it. And they're going to be really elite in pass rush again next year because guess what? Colin Simmons and Lance Jackson are your starters next year.
And look total who's going to be returning for this team next year, including all the number one recruiting class from last year. And there will be transfers. Absolutely, there's going to be transfers. You're thinking maybe Trey Wisner, if he doesn't transfer out, you got Trey Wisner returning, CJ Baxter more than likely going to be returning. Arch Manning will be back. You're going to have Parker Livingstone, Mosley and Wingo returning on the offensive side of the ball. And then whatever you want to do with the offensive line and the way that's going to shuffle up, I believe that you should bring in some transfers and hopefully a new rotation of guys that can step in, but you're going to have Trevor Gooseby coming back at left tackle. That's a huge part of the offensive line in general. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you're going to have guys like maybe a Jelani McDonald, a Colin Simmons is going to return this year. You're going to get guys like Ty Anthony Smith, Grayson Littleton, Cade Phillips. A lot of names are going to be back on this offense or on this defense and offense next year. And Jake, you and we talked about it going into the offseason. It may not be 2025, but 2026, that's some national championship expectations.
I've said 2026 for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
I've been on the 2026 is the year train for a long time. I'm not going to back off of it. I really hope they do the couple of things they need to do. I think you need to take an elite running back out of the portal, or as elite as you can get out of the portal. I think you need to take interior offensive linemen out of the portal. I think you need to take interior offensive linemen out of the portal. I wouldn't mind if you could go out and get a true number one wide receiver. I do think this bunch that will be returning can certainly fill out a very good wide receiver room. I would love if you went and got out just a guaranteed number one guy.
But you may not be able to find that in the transfer.
But I would rather you spend some more on defense.
Yeah. Defense and offensive line, I'd rather you put more of your resources towards
one good thing is you're not going to have to hit D tackle very hard this portal cycle.
Yeah.
You have Canoe returning. You have Alex January. Justice Terry, by the way. Yeah, Murad Watson's back. Justice Terry has been coming on the last like 3 weeks.
Saw him play pretty well today against Arkansas.
And he played really good against Georgia. He had 7 snaps, 4 tackles against Georgia and looked dominant in some of those snaps. He's going to be a freak next year. You're really only losing Shaw and Brevard. So maybe you go out and get a big old just, run plugger like Brevard but that's the most you need.
You need
I would be hitting safety, maybe corner, depending. I saw
you can
some
always use
chatter
corner.
that it's not impossible that Manny Muhammad could return. Not likely, but not impossible.
To me, it's also one of those things of like, you can never use too much talent at corner, too much talent at wide receiver, too much talent at running back. I don't really think that there's ever an option of, we're settled here, we're good here. And I think that's what went wrong with the offensive line this year is we had the we're good here mindset. And I don't think you can ever have that mindset with any position, not at the college football level.
No, and I think Sarkisian's probably learned some hard lessons this year, and we're going to see some shakeups with
we're also acting like a 9-win
positions.
season, at the very worst, a 9-win season, could just
very worst is an 8-win season.
Sorry. And that's what I meant. The very worst, an 8-win season is just, I mean, again, Jake, we went through a 10-year period where we would have killed for an 8-win season to be the worst and to be considered a flop, to be considered a bad season. We would have killed for that over the last 10-something years. So again, Sark has completely changed this program.
One game as a favorite too, by the way. The other 2 losses you were not favorites in.
Right. And again, the season's not over yet. And like Jake said, at best, we could possibly be looking at a 10-win season. At worst, you're looking at an 8-win season. And is that bad? Is that with the expectations and the standards of Steve Sarkisian's program? Absolutely not. It should be higher than that. You should be disappointed by this season if that's how it plays out. But with that all being said, I do think the future still a lot of bright pieces within this program and very exciting things to come, even going into next year. I'm a little sad talking about next year, Jake. I mean, football season's almost over.
Yeah, but I'm also excited about the thought about I'm excited because now we know Arch Manning, the light bulb, is flipped on for him.
It's on.
Yeah, and it's been on for really after the Kentucky game.
Yeah.
Everything after the Kentucky game. And really, he was starting to play well before the Kentucky game. The Kentucky game was more of an outlier when you look at the back half of the season. And the offensive line was atrocious against Kentucky. And they didn't catch the football against Kentucky.
Herbie and Fowler are doing the Gator Tennessee game. That's annoying. I guess there's not really any good games on this week, so kind of had to pick one.
I mean, USC Oregon was your best matchup, and I think everyone kind of knew Oregon was going to at least win that.
I figured since that's where game day was, I figured they were doing that game, but I guess they did not. So anyway, but yeah, all right, Jake. Well, let's go ahead wrap this up. Again, Texas A&M week right around the corner. They're playing Friday or are they playing Saturday, Jake?
I believe it's Friday.
So they're playing the day after Thanksgiving. Yeah. They are.
Yes.
Yeah, we got the Egg Bowl on Friday, which is always a fun game to watch. We got Georgia Tech. That's going to should be at least entertaining. I mean, last year's game went to like 9 overtimes. And then you've got Texas A&M and Texas. So 3 games, all 3 different time slots, should carry some weight on Friday. So it should be a pretty good post-Thanksgiving game day. And then obviously throughout Saturday as well, you've got all the rivalry games, Virginia Tech, Virginia, and those types of games.
Ohio State, Michigan is the big one.
Ohio State, Michigan.
Texas wants Ohio State to win that game badly, by the way, because that game would propel Michigan into the playoff. That's big. If Texas beats A&M, that is one of the biggest games on Saturday for Texas.
Yeah. And, I said it last year. I can't imagine Michigan winning that game again, but I've got to stop saying that for the rest of time because after winning 4 straight and winning last year's game, anything is possible in that Michigan-Ohio State game. Anything is possible. Just like Texas A&M. I don't care how bad or how good one of those 2 teams are. They're going to come ready to play. And the fact that it's at Texas and Texas a much better home team this year, I'll tell you right now, Jake, I'll ruin our pick'em episode. I'm not picking A&M to win that game. You out of your mind? I'm not going to pick A&M to win that game probably ever. I don't care if Texas is winless going into that game. I'm never picking A&M to win that game. So, we'll find out on Friday. Going to be a fun week. Going to be a nice. It'll be a little bit different week because Jake and I, obviously, it's Thanksgiving week and stuff. We're going to do our best to try to get an immediate reaction on that Friday night. Leading up to the game, we're going to try to get a Monday episode, a Tuesday episode. Doubt we'll get something on Thursday in, maybe a recorded episode. I don't know. We'll kind of have to talk and figure it out what we want to do leading up to the Texas A&M game. But with all that being said, he's Jake Jimerson. I'm Tanner Carlson. This has been your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. As always, ladies and gentlemen, hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.